A mysterious funeral, an empty coffin, and a cryptic note, "David, don't trust anyone." Detective David Carter follows the trail of a woman who was supposed to be dead, only to uncover a dark conspiracy inside St. Benedict Church, a powerful crime network willing to kill to protect its secrets. But Hannah, the journalist on the run, is still alive, and she's hiding. Can David uncover the truth before it's too late? Or will he become the next target? Watch until the end to uncover the shocking truth behind this case. The rain drizzled and neon lights flickered, reflecting off the wet streets of downtown. Traffic kept moving as if nothing had happened, but a group of people gathered inside a luxurious funeral home in a small corner of Manhattan between towering skyscrapers and a dark alley. It was the funeral of Hannah Foster, a famous journalist who had recently died in a mysterious car accident. The attendees remained silent, with only the occasional sigh breaking the heavy atmosphere. Some of her colleagues whispered to each other, still unable to believe that Hannah, the woman who always pursued the truth, was now lying motionless in a closed casket. Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the somber air. Max, Hannah's German shepherd, barked loudly and aggressively. He pulled at his leash, trying to rush toward the casket. At first, people thought it was just the reaction of a loyal pet, but as Max continued barking non-stop, his eyes filled with fear locked onto the casket, and a wave of unease spread through the room. David Carter, a private detective standing quietly in the back, frowned as he observed the strange situation. He didn't believe in coincidences. Hannah's death had already raised his suspicions, and now her dog was desperately trying to tell them something. The priest, leading the ceremony, Father Michael, a powerful figure in the city's religious circles, stepped forward and gently patted Max, trying to calm him down. "Everyone, please stay orderly. This is a time for prayer, not panic," his authoritative voice echoed through the room. But David couldn't help but notice the priest's hands trembling slightly as he touched the dog. Max growled, his sharp eyes locked onto the priest. What had he sensed, and why did Father Michael seem so nervous? David took a step forward, his voice calm but filled with suspicion. Something isn't right here. All eyes turned to him as the rain outside continued to fall, as if signaling that a deep mystery was about to be uncovered. Before we continue, please like and subscribe if you enjoy emotional and dramatic stories. David walked forward, his steady footsteps echoing through the quiet funeral home. His gaze was fixed on Father Michael, who was trying to remain calm but was visibly anxious. Max kept barking, his claws scratching against the marble floor, as if attempting to warn everyone of a hidden secret. "Is there a problem, Detective Carter?" Father Michael asked, trying to appear composed. "The dog is just grieving for its owner. Nothing more." David didn't respond immediately. He knelt beside Max, gently placing a hand on his head. "Easy, buddy. What are you trying to tell me?" Max whimpered softly and then suddenly stopped barking, beginning to growl cautiously. But this time, he was no longer looking at the casket. His sharp gaze was fixed on Father Michael. The air in the room grew heavy, and the funeral attendees exchanged uneasy glances. "As you all know, Hannah was an investigative journalist," David said slowly, never taking his eyes off the priest. "She didn't just report the news, she dug deep into major cases, uncovering secrets that some people wanted to keep hidden." "Detective Carter, I don't think this is the right time to—" "What do you know about her death, Father Michael?" David interjected, his voice low but firm. The tension in the room became suffocating. Some people whispered among themselves while others anxiously awaited a response. Father Michael opened his mouth, but before he could speak, the funeral home doors suddenly swung open. A middle-aged man stepped inside. He wore a sharp black suit, his cold eyes scanning the room before settling on David. "My name is Richard Evans. I am the legal representative for St. Benedict's Church. I'm here to ensure that no one disrupts this service." David narrowed his eyes. Something felt off. Why would a simple funeral require legal intervention? He glanced at Max, who was still growling, his intense gaze now fixed on both Father Michael and Richard Evans. Evans took a step closer, his stare sharp. "Detective Carter, I advise you to be careful with your words. Unless you have proof, you shouldn't be spreading baseless accusations." David raised an eyebrow. "Proof, huh? Thanks for the reminder." He knelt and unhooked Max's leash. Instantly, the dog bolted toward the casket, furiously scratching at the wood beneath it as if trying to uncover something. Gasps filled the room. Some people screamed in shock, while others stepped back in fear. Richard Evans and Father Michael turned pale. The priest stepped forward, intending to stop Max, but David was quicker. He grabbed the coffin lid and pulled it open. The entire room fell into stunned silence. Inside the casket, instead of Hannah's body, there was only a set of old clothes and a few blankets wrapped up to resemble a human form. A woman screamed. Murmurs and panic spread through the crowd. David spun around, his eyes blazing with the sharp instinct of a hunter who had just caught the scent of his prey. "Hannah isn't here." His gaze locked onto Father Michael, then shifted to Richard Evans. "Would either of you like to explain this?" Evans swallowed hard, while Father Michael took a step back, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Suddenly, a sound echoed from the hallway, the rapid clicking of shoes against the marble floor. David immediately turned his head. A shadow darted past the funeral home's glass door. Without hesitation, he sprinted outside, Max right at his side. Under the flickering streetlights, David spotted a woman running down the alley beside the funeral home. Her hair flowed in the wind, and for a brief moment he could swear he saw Hannah's face. "Hannah!" he shouted, picking up speed. The woman didn't stop. She turned into a narrow passage and disappeared into the shadows of the towering buildings. David and Max rushed after her, but when they reached the spot, the alley was empty. Only a small piece of paper fluttered on the ground. David picked it up. Under the dim yellow light, a scribbled message appeared. "David, don't trust anyone." A chill ran down his spine. If Hannah was alive, why was she running instead of coming to him? What was she afraid of? Or more importantly, who did she think David couldn't trust? Max let out a low growl, turning his head as if sensing something nearby. David tucked the note into his pocket and quickly led Max out of the alley. He needed answers, and there was only one place to find them: Hannah's apartment. It was located on the 7th floor of an old building on the city's east side. When David arrived, he checked the door. It wasn't locked, which was a bad sign. Slowly, he pulled the handgun from his holster, pushed the door open, and stepped inside. The place was a mess. Furniture lay overturned and papers were scattered across the floor. Someone had been there before him. On the table, Hannah's laptop remained open, the screen displaying a list of unread emails. David quickly sat down and scanned through them. One email stood out. It was from Hannah, sent to herself just one day before her death. "If I don't show up tomorrow morning, I got too close to the truth. The evidence is in the saint. Benedict data vault. Access code 9243-Angel. David's eyes narrowed. This was his only chance to uncover the truth. St. Benedict wasn't just the church where Father Michael served. It also housed a hidden archive in the basement, known to very few. If Hannah mentioned it, something important must be inside. Before leaving, David checked the closet and under the bed, but there was no sign of Hannah. Just as he was about to step out, a faint noise from the balcony froze him in place. He moved closer, slid open the glass door, and looked down into the alley below. A shadowy figure was walking away quickly. David's breath caught. He recognized that figure instantly. It was Hannah. Without hesitation, he bolted down the stairs, with Max right behind him. But when he reached the street, she had disappeared, lost in the sea of moving cars. She clearly didn't want to be found. David clenched his fists. No matter what, he would uncover the truth. And if Hannah was running, it meant the person she feared most was still watching them. That night, David drove to St. Benedict Church. He parked in a nearby alley, observing the old building with its dimly lit windows. Everything seemed quiet, but his instincts warned him that something was wrong. He sneaked into the back courtyard, where a metal door led to the church basement. The door was locked, but with a little skill, he managed to open it. As he stepped inside, a damp, musty smell filled the air. Navigating through dust-covered shelves, he finally found a small metal box. His heart pounded as he entered the code, 9243-Angel. With a soft click, the box unlocked. Inside, there was a stack of documents and a small hard drive. David flipped through the papers, and what he read made his blood run cold. These documents didn't just prove that Father Michael had been embezzling money from the church. They revealed something far worse. A criminal money laundering network involving powerful figures in the city. Richard Evans wasn't just a lawyer, he was the mastermind. Hannah had uncovered the truth, which was why she was being hunted. At that moment, David heard footsteps echoing from the basement entrance. He quickly closed the document box, drew his gun, and stepped into the shadows. A flashlight beam swept across the room, and a familiar voice spoke. "I knew you'd come here, Carter." Richard Evans stood in the doorway, two large men behind him. He held a pistol and aimed it directly at David. "Did you think you could expose us without being caught?" Richard smirked. "You're just like Hannah, always believing in justice. But some truths are better left hidden." David tightened his grip on his gun, calculating his escape. But before anyone could react, a loud bark rang out. Max lunged at Richard. The gun flew from Richard's hand as David fired at the two men beside him. In the chaos, David grabbed the document box and sprinted up the stairs. Richard shouted orders to chase him, but Max bit into his leg, slowing him down. David rushed out of the church, jumped into his car, and sped off into the night. Once safe, he reopened the documents, preparing to send the evidence to the police and the press. The next morning, news of the scandal shook the city. Richard Evans was arrested, Father Michael was under investigation, and the crime network was exposed. But Hannah was still missing. A week later, David found an anonymous letter in his mailbox. Just one sentence. "Thank you, David. I'm still watching." David smiled. He knew the fight wasn't over, but for now, justice had won. And he would always be ready for the next mystery. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed David's thrilling journey and Max's loyalty, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the truth has been uncovered, or are mysteries still left to solve? Let us know. Your support helps us bring more exciting stories.